Okay. Let's look at this coding test. So in this coding task, we have a binary gap with a positive integer n is any maximal sequence of consecutive zeros that is surrounded by ones at both ends in a binary representation of n. So for example, if number 9 has binary representation 1001 and contains a binary gap of length 2, so that's number of zeros, 0 and 0. And the number 529 has binary representation like this and contains 2 binary gaps. These 2 binary gaps. And this gap has 4 zeros, and this gap has 3 zeros. So it has two gaps. Gets a gap of length 4 and a gap of length 3. So another example, and that's another example. And so number 15 doesn't have any binary gap because there's no zeros. And this one also has no binary gap because it has a starting 0 but doesn't have it has starting 1 but doesn't have a 1 after all that zeros. So write a function given a positive integer n returns the length of the longest binary gap. So that function should return 0 if n doesn't contain a binary gap. Okay, so in that example here, we want to return 4 because it has 2 binary gaps, and we want to return 4 because the larger one has length 4. So what I'm going to do is just to convert integer into its binary format, and then count number of zeros. Okay, convert integer to binary format, and count zeros between ones. Okay, so for example, if we have a binary like that, and I will look at number of zeros and number of ones, and then use a variable to store and make comparison between a temporary results and get the largest length, or get the largest gap with largest number of zeros. Okay, so I'll first create a variable. I call it result. So this is going to be the final result, and I initialize it with 0 because if there's no gap found, we want to return 0. And next, I'm going to convert integer into its binary format. I call it binary form. I'm going to use a method in the integer package called toBinaryString, and convert the passing parameter n. And I will use a stack to count number of zeros. Okay. So I would go over all the characters in that binary form. call it scene, new stack. Gonna have to import stack from the Java utility package. Okay, and next I'm going to go looping over the characters in the binary format. So as binary form, I can loop from binary form directly. So first I'm going to convert it into a char array. So this is looking at all the characters in this integer's binary format. And keep in mind it's going to be either 0 or 1. And if we encounter 0, we want to store it because we want to later count zeros. If the character is 1, so if s equals to 1, then we might have found either a starting point or ending point. In this case, we found a starting, we found an ending point. We want to see if we can count the number of zeros. Okay. So I'm going to create a temporary variable. So this is going to count number of zeros in this gap. So if we encounter a 1, then there's a potential gap. So we want to create a variable to count for the length of the gap. Okay. So we're going to use the while loop because we're going to keep looking at the characters already stored on top of the stack and count number of zeros there. So if stack is not empty, okay, and if the top element is 0, then we know that there must be a gap. So what we want to do is we want to first pop that 0 out, and then we want to increment count by 1. Okay, and else. So that is if the top element is not 0, then it must be 1. If the top element is 1, then we must have met the beginning of the gap, the starting 1. So what we do is we want to first pop that 1 because we're done. We have finished counting number of zeros in this gap, so we want to pop out the starting 1 for this gap. And then we want to make comparison between the result and the temporary variable, result, and to see who's larger, because we want to compute the largest gap, and then we can just break out of this while loop here. Okay, and then we're going to push the new one that we found, because that new one is going to be the new starting one for the next gap, and then return result. Okay, so for the time complexity, So let's assume so we assume that n is number of characters, or n is the big N, because well, it's not going to be big N, it's number of characters in the binary format. Okay, so we are just looping through each and every character, and basically that's it. Okay, so T of n should be equals to big O of n, which is this number of characters. Okay, so let's run the code. Okay, all the example test cases are checked out. So let's submit the task. Session has ended. The submission is being evaluated 100%. Okay, thanks for watching and have a nice day.